Hey everyone, welcome back to Engelbard. It's that time again. Time to look at some controllers. This time I've decided I'll switch things up a bit and look at 3 controllers for the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, stop groaning. So why would you want to get a third-party controller for the Switch when you could just go out and get the excellent first-party Nintendo Switch Pro controller?
What? Who do you think you are?
Oh, okay. Well, why would you want to go out and get a third-party controller for the Nintendo Switch when you could just use the Joy-Cons that are included with each and every Nintendo Switch? Because the Joy-Cons are Yeah, so there's definitely a place in the market for third-party Switch controllers. Here are the 3 I'll be showing you today.
This one is from ECHTPOWER. ECHTPOWER? I'm gonna go with ECHTPOWER because it's easier to say. It's got the memorable and catchy name of the ECHTPOWER wireless controller for Nintendo Switch. This one here is from EasySMX and is called the wireless controller for Nintendo Switch. And finally, this one here is from EasySMX and is called the wireless controller for the Nintendo Switch. Hey, wait a minute. Those last 2 kinda have the same name, but they're actually completely different, and this one here lights up. Let's talk price. As I record this in July of 2020, the ECHTPOWER controller is $25.99. The standard EasySMX controller is $29.99, and the fancy light-up EasySMX controller is $35.99. In the interest of full disclosure, these came in from the Amazon Vine program. The opinions expressed here are entirely my own, and the companies that make these have no idea I'm even reviewing them here.
Now, these devices all have a few things in common. First of all, none of them can be used to power on the Switch or wake it up from sleep. They all have USB-C ports, they all include charging cables, and they all have turbo fire capability. And they all think they're ugly and they just don't understand how totally beautiful they are on the inside. Oh yeah, they also work as X-input devices when connected to a PC via a USB cable. You also cannot pair them over Bluetooth to any devices other than Nintendo Switches. Oh, you can try. You can go into your device, go into its Bluetooth pairing section, you'll see the controllers show up, you'll be able to pair to it. It'll connect, it'll look like everything's working just fine. And then you'll go to launch a game, try to use the controller and discover, hey, neat, half my controls don't do anything.
Okay, first up the ECHTPOWER. I'll keep this short and sweet. It ain't great. It's very light, the build quality feels a tad on the cheap side, and the buttons feel a bit shallow and mushy. The analog sticks are fine, the shoulder buttons feel okay, and the D-pad is decent. How does it perform? It's okay. Really, it's not too bad. I would say this is an okay controller to serve as a second or third player device. Except for 2 problems. In some games with Rumble, when the motors get engaged, they don't turn off until another Rumble event registers on the controller. So for example, I played a bit of Xeodrifter, which is heavy on the rumble in general. For some reason, third-party controllers' rumble functions tend to overreact with this game. Near the beginning of the game, the controller just started to rumble continuously. When I got down to the first planet, I just stood in a neutral place and the controller kept on rumbling until I fired a bullet, which sends its own rumble event. After firing, the continuous rumble stopped. But this happened multiple times throughout the game, so this was not an isolated incident. It also didn't just happen with that one game. I was playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and yes, I said Mario because that's how everyone I've ever known with that name pronounces it. Anyway, I was playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with my kids, and one of them was using the ECHTPOWER controller, and it did the same thing. It just went on continuous rumble until another event finally made it stop. Also, I've had moments where just for a split second or 2, the controller didn't respond. I was playing virtual racing, for example, and it didn't pick up that I'd steered right until a second or so later. I also had it fail completely to immediately detect when I pushed the brake button, and I had to push it 2 or 3 times to get it to actually work. This sort of problem happened maybe 4 or 5 times over the course of a 15-minute play session with that game. I tested this controller on a computer as well as some emulation to see how it would handle some classic games. In Street Fighter II Special Champion Edition for the Genesis, I had multiple incidents where it stopped responding for a split second or 2, or just completely missed inputs. With special moves, generally they seem to work okay, but there were several times where I tried to do a backflip and it just did not register. The rumble and occasional failure of inputs to register or be delayed really makes it impossible for me to recommend this controller to anyone.
Is it possible I just got a bad one? Yeah, of course. But would you be willing to place a bet on that with your own hard-earned money?
Next up we have the EasySMX wireless Switch controller. Hey, isn't that neat? It's got the blue and the red on the sides just like the official Joy-Cons. This one looks and feels decent, and it's considerably heftier than the ECHTPOWER controller. The buttons feel a bit better, the analog sticks are a smidge better, and the D-pad is a bit worse. It's even flatter than the one on the ECHTPOWER controller and has a really large divot on the center for some reason. The shoulder buttons are once again fine, although the triggers are a bit on the mushy side. I debated whether or not to even show you gameplay footage here. Why? This controller had huge problems right out of the gate. Sometimes it works okay, and sometimes it decides to just take some time off from listening to your commands. You see, several times while in use, it just stopped responding to input entirely. Other times it would go wacky and just keep moving to the right. Recalibrating it on the Switch didn't help. Unpairing it, power cycling it, and then repairing it also didn't help. Though, what you're looking at now is some of the lucky footage I was able to capture while the thing actually worked for a while. But I'm not going to waste any more of your time with this one. Despite feeling a little more premium than the last controller I looked at, this was far too unreliable for me to recommend it to anybody. Don't get it.
Again, did I just get a bad one? Sure, it's possible. Maybe every other one of these manufactured works just fine. But I can only tell you what my experience was.
Finally, here we have another controller from EasySMX. This wireless Switch controller has buttons that light up, as does the base of the right analog stick. And hey, it's got dual vibrators.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Silliness aside, first impressions on this one are pretty good. It feels very solid, it's actually about the same size and shape as the official Switch Pro controller, and it's got a nice amount of heft. Even though this controller is from EasySMX just like the last one, this one is not made from the same components as that one. How are the buttons, sticks, and D-pad? I'd say they're all the best of the three controllers tested here today. It doesn't feel anywhere near as good as Nintendo's first-party offering, but for $35, it's really expected to. My biggest complaint with this controller would have to be that, like the others reviewed here, the D-pad is just a bit too flat. The analog sticks could also use a bit more tension in them, but they still feel okay.
Now, I put this controller through much more rigorous testing than the other two in this video. Why is that? Well, after about a week, this is the only controller that didn't have any kind of malfunction and actually worked all the week through. Yeah, we did it! We did it! We found one that works!
I tried a bunch of Switch and PC games with this controller. On the Switch, yeah, it was fine. It was responsive, it felt pretty good, it never disconnected, there was no lag, it never lost its calibration, and it never stopped responding to input. So, yay for performing the basic tasks that it's supposed to. This worked great for both 3D games and 2D games on both the Switch and PC. Here I was using it to play some Switch games. Yeah, I know, I suck at some of these in these recordings, but just deal with it. On the computer, I tested it with a USB cable and it was immediately recognized as an X input controller. It was perfectly responsive, all the buttons worked, and yeah, I have no complaints with its performance here either. I tried about 10 different games with it, and of course put it through its paces with Street Fighter II Special Champion Edition. Even with the somewhat shallow and hard D-pad, it was still easy to pull off the special moves and combos much as you would hope it would be. Here's a little bit more of Street Fighter II SCE and a smidgen of a few other games for you. As far as battery life goes, they claim about 8 hours on a charge for this controller, and from my experience that seems just about correct. So no, the battery life isn't exactly amazing, but this controller really is ideal as a full-size Switch controller for second, third, or fourth player. What would I recommend? Easy. Get the Nintendo official Pro controller when it's on sale. Sometimes they go down to $50 or $55. Yeah, that price is still kinda disgusting for a controller as far as I'm concerned, but if you want one that you know is gonna work and will let you easily power the Switch on, really, it's by far the best option. If you want a good extra full-size controller that you won't need to use every day, then this EasySMX light-up controller is a decent option. For a third-party controller, I like the size and feel of this one despite it clearly not being constructed from top-shelf components. I'm a little hesitant to wholeheartedly recommend it because of the problems with the first EasySMX controller that I also tested in this video. Maybe this one will develop issues down the road, maybe it won't. All I can say is, I've had this one for just under a week and haven't had any problems at all with it. I hope it holds up as I really did enjoy using this one.
That'll do it for this video, my current and retro gaming friends. Have you had any luck with third-party Switch controllers? Have you tried any of the ones that I've shown in the video here today? Go ahead and share your experiences with everyone else in the comments. With that, I'll say thanks for watching, and see me later.